Hey guys, it's your boy 14 Fluffies here. Today, in commemoration of this new format, I am bringing you my hero deck profile, because literally not a single card in this deck has changed because of the new ban list. So yeah, let's just get into it. I mean, I have made lots of changes since then, because obviously the last deck profile for this particular deck was 2 months ago, I believe. I think it was February? Just because I was waiting for a new ban list, and it took forever making it, so yeah. So now that there's a new format, and I don't have to actually make any changes to adjust to it, here's the deck profile. Starting off, we have the 3 obligatory copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. It searches out your mass changes and form changes, as well as your heroes when sent to the graveyard. Next up, we got 2 copies of Elemental Hero Blazeman. I will never play less than 2 Blazeman, just because he adds so much more utility to the deck, just being able to turbo any hero into the graveyard to copy its attribute, so that you can mass change it into the appropriate masked hero. It also searches out Poly, which makes fusion plays really simple and fast, and really, he's always a +1 if you use him well, so yeah, there is that. We have 2 copies of Elemental Hero Bubbleman. I don't really like running 3, personally, because 3 does clog, but he obviously is how you go into your Acid Ab 0, and it's also how you make the majority of your XC plays. So yeah, he is mandatory in multiple copies. I just don't prefer 3, I just prefer 2. And for the last hero, we have one Neos Alias. I, for the longest time, played 2, but I had to cut back to 1 just because of the new format, and because drawing him really sucks, and I really just needed to more adapt to the format and keep up with the more problem matchups with the appropriate pre-sighting. So yeah, so that covers the hero lineup. So on to the supporting monsters. We have 2 copies of Summoner Monk. He obviously gets your Shadow Mist from deck by pitching a spell, and if you have multiples, you can pitch a spell for 1 monk, go into the second monk, pitch another spell, and then go into your Shadow Mist, search your mass change, overlay for a Rafflesia, and then you have Dark Love Rafflesia. So really simple, and yeah, main combo piece of the deck. He makes a lot of really good plays. And for the last monster, we have 1 copy of Goblinberg. I'm still really just happy with 1 Goblinberg. I never really need more than 1. So yeah, that's why I've never really bothered testing more than 1, just because I never needed it. So yeah, that is the monster lineup. It's still pretty streamlined. Normally in the past I played more monsters, like the second Neos Alias, and even BLS, but yeah, the more streamlined I make this deck, the better it seems to perform, even though the plays I did with the plays back in the day of 2 Neos Alias and the BLS was just retardedly explosive. I mean, you had to give up on consistency and all that, but the explosive plays would just be real, and the OTKs are real too, but yeah. So on to spells. I'm playing 3 copies of Hero Lives. Obviously, this card gets you to your Shadow Mist if you control no monsters. It's a 1-card Dark Law, basically, is all that really matters, and it gets you to your combo. It's an instant combo, so you don't even need combo pieces when it's just all in 1 card. So yeah, and there are also times where you sometimes want to go into Blazeman just to search your Poly. I mean, if Stratos was around, Hero Lives would be a lot better, just because you can go Hero Lives or Stratos, and there would be a lot of other combos there potentially. But yeah. So, but realistically, Shadow Mist is really just the better one to go for most of the time. So, yeah. We play the obligatory copies of A Hero Lives. Next up, 3 copies of Emergency Call. Obviously, this searches your heroes, and it gets you to your combo pieces. It's really a necessity in multiple copies. Sometimes I see people going between 2 and 3 copies. I prefer 3, but that's just because I like seeing this card, and it's probably the best fodder for Summoner Monk, just because sometimes you run out of search targets for either Shadow Mist, this card, or Rhoda. So yeah, and for the last card we're playing 3 copies of, we obviously play the 3 mass change, because this is how you get to your masked heroes. So yeah, I mean, Shadow Mist is really the best way of searching this. I mean, yeah, you could get it with Anki, but normally you always want to get this off Shadow Mist. And yeah, that was actually a really redundant statement, but you see what I mean, though. So these are the pretty much the obligatory 3 of cards that you always play 3 copies of. I mean, sometimes you changes around, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, and on to the other spells. Next up, we have 2 copies of Mass Charge. This obviously is your salvage for the deck. It's a +1, and basically it lets you grab back a hero and change quick play from your graveyard and add back to your hand. So yeah, it's a really clutch card to top deck, and it's definitely something you need to play in multiple copies. So yeah, and for the one-ofs, we have 1 form change. I used to play this in multiples, and I really would like to go back to playing multiples, but I just don't have the room at the moment. But since I am playing multiple Mass Charge now, having 1 copy just isn't as big of a problem now, just because I'm able to, obviously it's searchable with Shadow Mist, and normally if I open with a Mass Change in a way of actually triggering Shadow Mist, I'll just grab this instead, just to save for form changing out Nova Master or Ab-Zero, or even Anki and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any, there aren't very many good things to form change Darklaw into, or form change into Darklaw with. But yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, Konami still has 3 other masked heroes to make, but those will have to wait for a later day, I'm afraid. And on for the other one, we have 1 Miracle Fusion for just for more plays. Normally, it's a play extender. It's an OTK enabler sometimes, but yeah, for the most part, this is more or less just one of your better recovery cards or playmakers, just because it gets you to either your Nova Master or your Ab-Zero. Most of the time it gets to Ab-Zero, since you normally make Nova Master with the Poly you search from Blaze Man. And speaking of the Poly, we have the 1 Poly. I used to play 2, and that was back in the days where I played 2 Fusion Recovery. I love that build a lot, but this build is more practical for the format, unfortunately. That build was just so much fun for me. And shut the fuck up, dog. Whatever. So yeah, we have, for the last spells, we have the 1 Raigeki and the 1 Rhoda. Obviously, Rhoda will search out all your warriors, including Goblinberg, so it does search out your other combo pieces. Opening Rhoda plus E-Call is pretty much Darklaw right there. And yeah, that will wrap up the spells. And normally you want to play a very large spell count in heroes anyway, just because you want to set your hand for Bubble Man, and because you always want Summoner Monk to be live. So yeah, that's why you typically play more spells than most other decks. So yeah, on to the traps. Starting off, we have 3 copies of Call of the Haunted. All of these are mismatching rarities, and it makes me sad, but yeah, 1 gold, 1 super, and 1 common. Yeah, this lighting is shit, but I'm working with what I can. So yeah, this card has a lot of utility in the deck. Even if you don't have an open with a way of searching off a Mass Change or a form change with Shadow Mist, the next best thing is to actually have Blazeman, and have Blazeman dump a Shadow Mist into the graveyard with this effect to send a hero to the graveyard, and then bring it back during your opponent's end phase with Call of the Haunted. So you special summon your Shadow Mist with Call of the Haunted, you get your Mass Change, trigger it, and then you keep plussing from there, basically, because you're going to be juggling your searches with Shadow Mist and Blazeman from there on out. And it's probably the most advantageous way to play the deck, because that's probably the best way to actually meld together the interaction between Blazeman and Shadow Mist. But even then, this is also just one of your better recovery cards. And back in the days of Ptolemaeus and Infinity, if you didn't necessarily have a way of making your Infinity turn 1, you could go into Ptolemaeus, and then in the end phase, you can attach your diamond to it, and then detach all 3 materials, and then overlay for Nova. And if Nova dies, you can call the Haunted during the end phase and put an Infinity on top of it, so there you have your Darklaw Infinity. So, yeah. So, that is there. And plus, you can actually summon Infinity back from the graveyard with Call of the Haunted as well. But that was in the past. So, yeah. Normally, you just get back Shadow Mist or Blazeman with this card, because Blazeman triggers a normal or special summon. So, yeah. This will trigger both Shadow Mist and Blazeman. And for the next 3 we're playing 3 Fiendish Chain. I went back to 3 Fiendish Chain as opposed to the 2 memory losses, just because memory loss isn't that great now, thanks to the prevalence of PK Fire in the meta. Just Cosmo, I haven't really been seeing that much Cosmo, but then again, I haven't been playing that much DN since the cease and desist where they took down the pictures. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I haven't really been keeping up all that well. But I went back to Fiendish Chain just because really, you need an effect negation, and you also need to stop battle now as well. Just because you may stop the effect, but you still are going to be very vulnerable to attack, just because mass destruction is more of a thing now. I know PK, Fire, Cosmo, and just regular builds of Phantom Knights are playing Dark Hole in multiple copies at least, so, and Raigeki, so you typically, of course, let's just start off with that and then make their plays, and then you need something to stop their attacks or negate their effects with. This card does both. That's just my logic behind it, but it's just good effect negation since I don't really have access to a set of Solemn Strikes. So yeah, and for the other traps that we play multiple copies of, we play 2 times Space Trapple for Trap Tricks Rafflesia, and plus it's a really good card versus Cosmo and Burning Abyss, Phantom Knights, any variant of that, as well as for Pendulums. I mean, you can't be playing with fire with it if you open up with the Hero Lives. If they Pendulum summon multiple cards, you may not be able to actually resolve Time Space without killing yourself. But normally under Dark Law, unless they're Pendulum summoning 4 from their hand, they're not going to be Pendulum summoning more than 3 monsters at a time normally. At least that's from my experience. And for the last trap that we play multiple copies of, we were playing 2 Rivalry of Warlords. We got a Floodgate our opponent. That's the main win condition. Sit on Dark Law and Floodgates, basically. Which is why we play Rafflesia, just because it's a walking pit of death, basically, for anyone who commits to anything. So yeah, and for the final one-ofs, we're playing the 1 Bottomless for our 3rd Rafflesia target, the Solemn Warning, and the Vanity's Emptiness. And that will wrap up the main deck at 40 cards. I kind of moved over to Fiendish Chain kind of on a whim. I mean, I wasn't too happy. I mean, Heroes have a very, very awful Cosmo matchup, which is unfortunate. It can't really be helped, though, because there's not really much you can do about Cosmo. I mean, they're very hard to decide against and be effective about it. I mean, yes, you could say you could play things like Prisma and Fortress Dragon, but I don't have access to any of those. I have Cyber Dragons, but I don't have the, I haven't been able to get Infinite Gold, so I haven't been able to get any Fortress Dragons yet. I mean, I could easily get some Prismas, no problem, and I might do a discussion about that, Neos Alias versus Prisma, and which one heroes should be playing in this kind of format now that Cosmo are a thing. But yeah, I'm on the fence, really. So, on to the extra deck. This extra deck is very different from my last... Well, not very different. It's gone through some changes, so let's just go right into it. First off, we are playing the 1 Master Hero Anki. This guy is your biggest is one of your bigger playmakers. His effect will let you search out Exchange Quick Play whenever he runs over an opponent's monster and sends it to the graveyard. He can be an OTK enabler at times, just because the fact that you can if you have multiple mask or form changes, you could just attack about 5 times in the battle phase and just kill your opponent right there. But yeah, because you can go Anki Mash Change Dark Law, Mash Change Second Dark Law, stuff like that. You can kill your opponent really easily with Anki, and that's why you play him, just because he has a lot of utility. Plus, he's 28. He also can attack directly for half damage, so he is a Heartland Draco in a way. He can beat over big monsters. Unfortunately, he can't get over things like Forerunner and Dark Destroyer, which is a problem, because Dark Destroyer is a very hard thing to get over for heroes. Unless you have Utopia the Lightning or Excalibur. I have not been able to get a Utopia the Lightning, unfortunately, because I'm kind of low on money. But yeah, let's get on to the rest of the extra deck. We have 1 copy of E-Hero Nova Master, easily my favorite fusion in this entire extra deck. He pretty much just gets you pluses endlessly whenever he runs over an opponent's monster by battle. And it doesn't even have to go to the graveyard. Whenever he runs over an opponent's monster by battle, you draw 1 card. It doesn't matter where they go. If they're banished, if you have Dark Law on board, you still draw. If they go to the extra deck, if they're a Pendulum monster, you still draw. Even if it's something strange, under some strange condition, or they wouldn't go to the graveyard somehow, you would still draw no matter what off of Nova Master. And Nova Master is also really good because he's a mandatory effect, and he makes floaters miss timing like Yang Zings. And as long as the effect is worded as when this card is destroyed, Nova Master will make it miss timing, which is very neat. And for the next card, we have 1 Master Hero Acid. I'm noticing that people do. I know that people do play 2. I don't have room for 2, nor do I have money to get a second one. I'm perfectly fine with just 1, just because I play Form Change, and I could Form Change this out and then summon it again at a later time. And plus the fact I do play Form Change, I don't necessarily even need to Mash Change a Bubble Man to get into this. I could Form Change Nova Master, for example, or Form Change Anki, and be able to get into Acid and then nuke the opponent's back row and then just weaken their monsters and then attack. So he is definitely something you want to go into if you think you can pull it off. He's a really good way of baiting back row if you have multiple copies, but since I'm playing one copy, I am more cautious with my acid. So yeah, and we have the one Ab-Zero, because Ab-Zero does put in a lot of work versus Cosmo. He's a bit of a deterrent, even though realistically, Dark Destroyer makes Ab-Zero sad. I mean, if you have Ab-Zero plus Abyss Dweller, you have a pseudo-lock. I mean, they could Dark Destroyer the Dweller, which would completely screw you over, but if they're not able to do that, you have a 35 Ab-Zero plus a 22 Dweller. Nothing will be able to beat over Ab-Zero unless they have Honest, but even then, they're going to have a Light Monster, which means that it probably is either... It's probably one of the Jedi. It's not going to be any of the ships unless they actually do run it over with a Forerunner or a Slip Rider, which will pretty much mean that whatever is going to be blown up by Ab-Zero will not be floating or triggering. So yeah, we have the one Koga, because he's pretty much he's a world beater. I mean, I wish he didn't target, just because he would make the Cosmo matchup pretty balanced. He would pretty much be the best card to make versus Cosmo. But he does target, so I can't really do anything about it. Even though he does target, he's still incredibly good against Cosmo, because he can beat over almost everything. He can point-for-point Dark Destroyer just because Dark Destroyer is there. You don't want to do that. That's a terrible idea, though, just because Dark Destroyer will float and this guy won't. But, yeah. He is your world beater for Cosmo, and he puts in work when needed. And for the last two fusions, we, of course, have our 2 copies of Darklaw. Obviously, he's the main win condition of the deck. You want to get him out in turn 1 as much as possible. He's your one-sided macro that also stops searching. So yeah, he is a card that's probably not immune to power creep, much like Ophion and stuff like that, and Dolce Queen Tiramisu. He will pretty much be he will be seeing play just as long as he's either not banned, or as long as the cards that would summon him are not banned, like Mass Change and Mass Change Second. So yeah, and that wraps up the fusions at, I believe, 7. And for the Exceeds, starting off, we have one Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon. I'd consider him a stable, and which is why I still run him. He's not quite as good now as he was before Cosmo, or just Dimension of Chaos in general, because Magispector also came out in there, and Dark Destroyer came out there, which pretty much secured Cosmo as a tier 1 deck. So yeah, before then he was really good, and he still is really good, just for beefing up himself and lowering the opponent's monster stats and beating over. You can make him really big. So yeah, and plus we have the one Ragna-Zero. If you can make these 2 in the same turn, that's pretty much winning. So yeah, and Ragna-Zero you make just because you also play cards like Koga and Acid, which can manipulate your opponent's stats. So if you can make Ragna-Zero plus a Koga or an Acid, you're in really good shape. You could probably come back and win, especially if you're detaching a Shadow Mist that you could trigger under Ragna-Zero. And next up, we have 101 Silent Honor Arc. This is a new edition. I didn't have a 101 prior to this, but I got this from Yuchi. He traded me for this, and I'm glad to have it. I mean, I've yet to test it in real life, but obviously 101 is a staple in my opinion. He's just really good. And we have 1 copy of Heroic Champion Excalibur. So this is how you out things like Dark Destroyer, and before he obviously used him to out towers. He could feasibly out Magnus, but the thing is, Magnus could just spin it. He also outs Ultimate Falcon, because Falcon is not a quick effect, so you can just beat over Falcon with Excalibur. And yeah, he gets over those big towers like monsters. So yeah. Next up, we have 1 copy of Castel. He's just a staple. He's probably the best tool for spinning things like Cosmotown, and really, he's just a staple. If there's any problem card that can be targeted, Castel gets rid of it. 1 Abyss Dweller, because you can easily make it with a Bubble Man, and it gets really beefy. And he beefs up things like Acid and Ab-Zero, which I've mentioned before. And plus, he's really good against Cosmo and Burning Abyss, even though I wouldn't say he's as good against Burning Abyss as Darklaw is, but he's still a very good card that you need to play. We got 1 Gagaga Cowboy for game. This is a rare. I don't really know. I mean, I'm still on the fence. I may or may not drop them later in this format. I plan on making a lot more changes to this deck for this format. And for the last monster, we have the 1 Traptrix Rafflesia. Probably the Exceed I probably go into most, just because opening up Darklaw Rafflesia, you're pretty much set to win at that point. So yeah, that is the extra deck. And let's close this up real quick. Ending off, we're gonna start with the side deck. This is very much so a work in progress. I realize I have a lot. I almost have too much sighted in for Monarchs and not enough sighted for Cosmo or Burning Abyss, Phantom Knights, whatever. So yeah, starting off, we have, unfortunately, just one copy of System Down. I really need to get a set of these. Let's not bump the camera. I really need to get a set of these just because this. God damn it, I did it again. But yeah, this would really help the Cosmo matchup just because I'd be able to just pay 1,000, banish all machine type monsters from my opponent's side of the field and graveyard. Obviously, this card really shits on Tin Can because they're going to be loading up their graveyard full of ships anyway. So yeah, I mean, Dark Claw also kind of shits on Tin Can too since it searches and sends to grave. So yeah. Next up, 3 copies of MST. I still need to find a way to put these back in the main deck just because of Domain and just because of Domain. I mean, yeah, Solemn Strike is a thing, but really, I'm just trying to figure out. It's really just best to learn to play around it, really. But sometimes you can't, so it's unfortunate. We got 2 Kaiser. Even though I do have a 3rd one, I don't really feel like I need to play 3 in this side deck. It's not necessary, really. I mean, Dark Law plus Kaiser is really good, but obviously, you want to open up with Dark Law Rafflesia, which is better, so Kaiser's not that great in that circumstance. We have 3 copies of Mind Crush. I'm on the fence about this one. I may take it out. It's really only good against Monarchs, in my opinion. But a lot of decks do search, but Phantom Knights do search a lot, but they want their stuff in the graveyard anyway, and unless you have Dark Law, it really won't matter. So, yeah. Next up, Two Chain Disappearance. I love this card. It's a really great tech card. It really helps with the mirror match if I run into it. It puts in a lot of work versus Phantom Knights, Monarchs, Burning Abyss, pretty much every good deck this format minus Cosmo, because even though Tin Can does get hit by this, they could just chain its effect and banish itself. So yeah, that would make Chain Disappearance fizzle. Unfortunate, but that's just how it works. Next up, we have a set of Mask of Restrict for the Monarch matchup. This obviously just shuts them down completely and just says, fuck you. So yeah, yeah, so it's pretty much, this is a universal staple in side decks, yeah, and for the last card we have 1 Chaos Trapple. This I side in for Monarchs, Cosmo, pretty much anything that runs lights and darks, you can side this in, and it's pretty much just another Solemn Warning, but except it banishes. So yeah, that's the deck profile. I plan on making more changes to this for this format, since obviously the format just started. I mean, we just got the ban list today. I feel pretty good about Heroes this format. Obviously, we didn't get back Stratos, but I don't feel. I mean, in my mind, Heroes don't really need Stratos all that much just to be good, just because they have Dark Law. But yeah, I don't want to end this video on an awkward note. My bad. But yeah, tell me what you guys think of my deck profile. Any suggestions for me, because I do kind of want to find what the better tech cards are this format. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next.